There's a popular saying in the business world that I heard a lot growing up, and that is, it's all about who you know. Or it can also be said as, it's more important who you know than what you know. And so I've been thinking about this in terms of the various jobs I've had. And the first one is very obvious. It was totally who I knew. And that was when I worked with my dad. I also worked at a law firm in college, and my dad knew the owner. I worked at a server in a restaurant, and I knew another server who had been working there for a very long time. So it was clearly all about who I knew. But then I thought about some of the other jobs I've had, and it was not so one-sided. I got an architecture internship in undergrad, and I remember I started the internship and I was doing it unpaid, because my understanding was that an internship is free labor. So I was doing that, and one day my boss walks into the office and said, "You know, we pay interns." And it struck me like, wow, I was able to get this position because I had the willingness to offer service, to do something voluntarily. And then after I did that for a while, he could see, oh, he's doing something productive, so we'll pay him. When I got a job out of grad school, there was some connection between the boss and a professor I had, but there wasn't a direct link. But I remember that after working there for several years, I took time away. I quit, essentially, and came to the Abbey. And then when I went back to Atlanta, I approached that company and asked if I could work for a few months. And they totally said yes. And I recognized that it was because I didn't burn the bridge. So that was another saying I had heard, is don't burn bridges. It's always important to keep a good relationship with everyone. And then there was another opportunity that I had in Spokane, and I went to this interview thinking that I was interviewing for an internship, that it was just going to be a volunteer position. But when I got there, they said, oh, we're actually hiring for a paid position. So it was again that thing of going with the thought, oh, I'm just going to do this voluntarily because I want to give, and then having an opportunity, a paid opportunity come up. So it made me think that this saying is partially true. Yes, it's who you know, but it's also about your contribution and your intention to offer to the people you know. Mike Curtis on the website Medium, which is this open platform where people can share ideas about different topics, he says that it's not simply who you know, but who you are to them that really matters in your career. And so you might be wondering, like, why am I talking about this? Well, I started thinking about this when I heard that monastics were contacting Venerable Chodron about taking full ordination in Taiwan. And it made me think, oh, who we know is very important, not just for our professional life, but for our spiritual development. And so then I was thinking, well, in terms of my spiritual development, how has who I've known impacted me? And of course, it's great. It's enormous. So I was connected to Venerable Chodron through a friend of mine in grad school who gave me one of her books, Open Heart, Clear Mind. And then on the basis of this relationship, I was able to receive teachings, take refuge, take the 5 lay precepts, take Anagarika precepts. And then it was Venerable that introduced me to Master Jen Hu was my preceptor for my novice ordination. And I already knew Geshe-la, but I didn't recognize his potential role as acharya in my ordination. So it was this, it's been this beautiful reflection about how it has been in total dependence on who I've known to enable me to continue on this path. And then if you take it further, of course, we know what we know in the Dharma because our teachers learned from their teachers and learned from their teachers, going all the way back to the Buddha. And so it's connections in both the business world and the spiritual world, and they're not made, they're not sustained without our own contributions to the relationship. So we work from our side to benefit those who have benefited us, to do the work of those who have benefited us. And I went back to reading a little bit of How to Rely on a Spiritual Mentor. And of course, this repayment of kindness is how we repay the kindness. We repay the kindness through our thoughts, through recognizing their good qualities, having gratitude and appreciation for our connection with them, for what they've done in our lives, having trust and appreciation and respect. And externally, we can speak to others about their good qualities, we can introduce them to others, and we can work on various projects that they're interested in, and also, most importantly, practice what they teach. And so I was thinking about the difference between the connections in the business world and the connections we make in our spiritual life. And I could see in my career, the small part of a career I had, some of the connections were quite short-lived. They were shallow. And that is in stark contrast with the connections we make in our spiritual life. Hopefully ones are deep, long-lasting, and meaningful. There would be networking events I would go to, and of course, the whole purpose of those are self-promotion. Whereas when we connect with others spiritually, we're really seeking spiritual development. In the business world, we leverage our network to get what we want. And in spiritual practice, we strive to become someone who connects others to the Dharma. We can connect others to our own teacher, give them books, encourage them in ethical conduct. And often I was looking for someone to help me. But in spiritual practice, we can be someone intent on helping others. I was meeting people to connect to a job where the impact and growth might be limited. But now in spiritual life, we can meet people to connect them to their highest potential of full awakening. And so clearly this is much more meaningful than anything I did in any of my jobs. And so we make these enduring connections with our spiritual mentors to accomplish their wishes, and at the same time, it accomplishes all of our spiritual goals. We create our Dharma friendships to inspire and encourage each other in virtue. And we build strong Sangha communities that sustain the Dharma and that connect beings to their deepest spiritual aspirations. And so, on the one hand, yes, it is indeed about who you know. It's their efforts, it's their kindness, it's their willingness to give us an opportunity, it's their help. So not only for our worldly success, but for our spiritual growth, other people are absolutely essential. We are totally dependent on them. And on the other hand, it's about who we are to them. It's how we make efforts for them It's how we repay their kindness and how we provide opportunities to others and benefit them in more and more profound ways.